Next curve.
Hey everyone, welcome to this Next Curve Rethink podcast episode where we break down the latest tech and industry events and incidents and things that happen into the insights that matter. And I'm Leonard Lee, Executive Analyst at Next Curve. In this episode, we will be recapping Marvell Industry Analyst Day 2024, which took place in Santa Clara on December 10th. And I'm joined by my very good friend and local neighbor, right? You're kind of like a neighbor, Prakash.
Yeah, like few miles away, right?
Yeah, Prakash Sangam. Yeah, exactly. Tantra Analyst. So how are you doing, Prakash?
Pretty good. Exhausted with all the travel we did together this year, right? And more coming.
Well, this is the last, that was the last travel of the year. And you're not quite finished, but we won't talk about that at the moment. That was my last travel, right?
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, it feels good. It's been a crazy year. So, but before we get started, remember to like, share, comment on this episode, and subscribe to the Rethink podcast here on YouTube and on Buzzsprout. Always mispronounce that, to take us on the road and on your jog and listen to us on your favorite podcast.
Especially when you're, driving for this, if you're driving for this holiday season meeting.
Oh, yeah. And you can gift, it's free. So just gift it to your friends and family and your neighbors and your whole company. So it's nice and easy.
Yeah.
But Marvell Industry Analyst Day.
Mm-hmm.
What is this, like your second? It was like your fourth or fifth time going, right?
Mine is third or fourth, something like that. And they themselves said this is the sixth time, so we're not.
Yeah. This is my second. Yes, last year was really interesting. It was. It took place on the 10th, as I said. It was one day event, and it kicked off early in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So, pretty feverish agenda that took us all the way into the evening. But why don't we start off with your impressions and what did you think about the event this year compared to last year?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it is chock full of a lot of great information, a lot of information-packed sessions. The one big difference I saw compared to the previous ones is their custom ASIC business used to be kind of a last session toward the end of the day. A lot of hush. Okay, we are doing good business there, but we can't share too much for our customers, what we are doing and so on. But this year it was front and center,
Yeah.
We've been saying, we are supporting the, I think they started here, I think 3 years ago, all clouds are not equal. There are specific needs of these different cloud players, and we are catering to those specific needs of them. And then, so it was more like custom cloud was their kind of main message. But this year it's big message. We are, of course, it's custom cloud, but custom ASIC is where a lot of the action is, and then we are best positioned to exploit that opportunity and no more, we can't share who our customer is and so on. They basically started off saying they made these announcements with AWS for next 5 years, and then Meta for interconnect for I think that's also a few years. So, and those were good proof points. And also they started off the event with the good news from our friends on the Wall Street, right? The stock has been doing good. It's reached, and I think it retracted a little bit from $100 billion market cap, and so on. So squarely on ASIC customization of cloud and data center was, and I think they made a good pitch on why they are better positioned in terms of stuff of all the great IP they have, expertise they have, custom relationships they have, and so on, end to end. So I think it was a very, very well planned and executed. lot of good information. I especially liked one of the sessions. Sandeep Bharathi, that is, who's the CDO, Chief Development Officer, and using sandwich as an illustration on how they make this custom cloud possible with custom ASICs and technologies and so on. So I think I will talk more in detail.
Yeah.
But all in all, at a high level, yeah, I think it was pretty good and messaging was pretty clear, squarely focused on data center, and they called themselves as a data center company as well in the beginning.
Yeah. It was a very different. I agree with you. Very different year, and I would say it's not just data center. It's really this accelerated infrastructure that they talk
Correct.
about. You hear that same kind of terminology used by NVIDIA and others. So yeah, this is largely, I mean, the opportunity that they're looking at and this big shift in their business is largely due to generative AI supercomputing. And supercomputing actually came up a number of times. And I think last year there was a bit of diversity. We heard the diversity story, or at least continue to hear that. This year there was almost none of it. In fact, I did ask the question to the panel of executives, like, can you throw the telco and the automotive folks a bone? They really put that stuff. They didn't even bring that into the kitchen. It was on the back burner. The back burner stuff was a little bit more of the interconnect and networking. Although that was really, I think, more of the core of the story. But yeah, to your point, the announcements around the ASICs, custom ASICs for supercomputing.
Yeah, it was
the big thing.
It was, and also it was that XPUs, interconnect, and the memory. Right? They made the announcement with Samsung, Micron, and SK Hynix on their custom HBW, high bandwidth memory, HBM modules. Yeah, custom HBM.
Yeah. And again, just like last year, really well run program. And, I think they were really wanting to focus on their growth market. Literally market. And so, we had Chris Koopmans get up there and literally show on a chart that data center is their largest opportunity. It's outsized now.
Yeah, 70%, I think, if I remember.
Yeah,
it's not.
Right.
It is the opportunity for them, yes.
Right. And then as far as like future growth and its a proportion of their business is going to continue to be that outsized driver as well as part of their business. So it's interesting. It's changed so much because last year the tone was very, very different, right? I think there was that inkling that this generative AI infrastructure or accelerated infrastructure investment was going to happen and start to take off, and they're really in the thick of it. So in terms of impressions and takes, what were some of the key things that you took out of the event this year?
Yeah, the key is basically they are squarely focused on the opportunity. Others do exist, but last year they're a little bit, they're saying we are doing the investments and we expect that to be a bigger market for us. But this year it was, very confident that it has happened, and they're showing a lot of progress with a lot of proof points. That is one, and the obviously Gen AI and I think I was struck with lot of different IP that bring to the table, which not many people do. I think that was pretty impressive, and they showed all of it on how they are bringing together and all that. That's second. And interconnect, they've been leaders, and then they are as the data centers grow bigger, larger, you have to not only scale out but also scale up. I think that's where the connectivity not only copper or it's not copper or fiber. It's going to be both of them using based on the use case, based on their scaling out or scaling up, combining them. And I think that was interesting. I mean, if you look at the bandwidth needed to connect these clusters and the regional data centers, it's mind blowing, right?
Yeah.
Thinking
Yeah.
about 400 gig going to 1 terabyte links, and then 2 terabytes in the future, and so on. So
Yeah.
that was pretty interesting. And then um, in the afternoon session, the simile of the how you're managing thermals. What are the limiting factors
Yeah.
on your chip size and its thermals based on the tray that are used um, for server racks and so on. That was interesting. So I think they gave a lot of good details on what they're doing, how they're doing, and why that is making sense. So yeah, and they did mention, a little bit towards the end, and a lot of it your question as well on automotive. They said it is doing okay, and but year over
Yeah.
year, you will not have that much of difference because it's a slow moving
Yeah.
industry as such, right? Looks like they're still doing okay there. No more, no new information was shared.
Yeah.
Other business, I think they're checking along, but nothing compared to the data center, I guess. So basically,
Yeah.
the main, if I have to write the whole day in one sentence, saying that data center is growing, it's a major market for them, and they're winning with their custom silicon, and yeah, that's it. So and I agree with uh, you know the first phase of Gen AI being all GPU based, coming from NVIDIA. Going forward, as we move in from training to inference, there is different kinds of processing processors needed, not just GPUs. And there will be a lot of focus, especially from the hyperscalers, on customization, bringing their own chipsets. Like AWS already has uh, Tanium too, and so on. So I think that will be an interesting market to be in. So I think
Mm.
that's that's a great place to be in as such, and making sure supporting these guys. And if you look at their track record, you know these hyperscalers obviously will develop more custom silicon, and probably they'll rely on a partner like Marvell based on the success they have so far for most of the customization and the chipset part of it.
Yeah. I thought this year they really brought the systems level perspective, and like you were saying,
Yeah.
made the impression that they have all the bits and pieces for
Hmm.
like you were mentioning, the hyperscaler type customers
Yeah.
to mix and match
Mhm.
and custom build uh,
Yeah.
a platform that's another key word,
Correct.
optimized.
Yes.
And you're right. NVIDIA does general purpose accelerated infrastructure,
Yeah.
or actually it's broader than that, because they, the reason why they have NIMs and all these other artifacts and frameworks that take these models and deploy them in inference environments is because they want to extend all of the stuff that's happening in these massive data centers out
Really.
across edges. But
Yeah.
custom but optimized. And so it's interesting because they do have a small number of customers. And like you
Mhm.
mentioned earlier, they have Meta, AWS. These are very, very large scale customers that are primarily, in all likelihood, even though they didn't specify, using a generative AI, or let's just call it broader AI for like recommender engines and such,
Mhm.
for operational purposes. That's
Yeah.
different from what we're
Correct.
seeing
Correct.
from like NVIDIA, and AMD, where a lot of these processors are being used largely for model development and training.
Yeah.
And so you see these model makers or developers buying, either buying these chips or these cloud GPU as a, I hate this term, a GPU as a service guys providing instances to these model developers. And I think the operational use cases are real end market. That's real end market. Model training is for model developers is not end market. That's just R&D. And then we're also seeing the sovereign AI stuff. That's also largely traditional supercomputing with maybe some of this LLM, sovereign LLM stuff going on. But the other thing that they impressed upon us was the innovation they're doing across the stack. So you mentioned the sandwich, which I loved. I actually dubbed dubbed Sandeep. His name is Sandeep, right?
Yeah, Sandeep Bharathi. Yeah.
Oh my God, he's gonna don't kill me. No, I love the dude. But I call him Mr. BLT now. That's why I forgot his name, because I'm going to call him Mr. BLT from now on. Hi, Sandeep. But I want to give a shout out to Nigel, because he prodded me to make sure that I made this point about their custom HBM architecture. So they announced that in a partnership with SK Hynix and Samsung Semiconductor. And so these guys are getting down into the weeds, working with customers with bespoke needs, probably even model or application specific needs that are largely scaled out, not general purpose. And I think that's one of the big impressions that I got. And we're also seeing that play with Broadcom. Right. So, and that's why these guys are sort of playing in the same lane in this horse race, right? Where, I think Intel, NVIDIA, and AMD are actually running a different type of race. So,
and the point you make about their processor, this custom silicon and the whole solutions that they're bringing is not for setting up, which it might be used for there, but it's not setting up of just infrastructure for the cloud user to use. But a lot of them, they know, for example, if you take Meta or AWS, they know for their own operations the kind of workload they run, right? So the whole solution is optimized perfectly for that kind of workloads. So the workload that Meta runs is different from AWS, different from Google, for example, right? So you have to make when you're offering this as the accelerated architecture or accelerated infrastructure for somebody else, then you don't know. Then you have to be a little bit more generic in terms of the process you run and so on, right? But here, since you're using it for your own operations, which are huge operations in themselves, then you can customize the heck of it, right? Exactly what you need, rather than running it on custom. So I think it's a large market, and it's not very easy to get in. So once you get in, once you're very close to the hyperscalers, then it's a good market to be in for the long run.
Well, I personally think it's a better one. Actually, Carl Freund and I did a podcast earlier this year about exactly this and this dynamic playing out. And I think the real risk, for the folks who are selling through into the AI VC community and their minions are the ones that are going to probably be exposed to higher risk in terms of how all of this plays out. Simply because once these models are developed to a level where they're good enough and you hit this ceiling, and I have some of our friends in the silicon, the semiconductor industry who cover generative AI, supercomputing, who probably push back on this assertion that at some point it's going to be good enough and you can't get better. It's getting too big and it's getting too ridiculous. The folks who are operationalizing this stuff at scale, they'll just take these models and then it'll just be one massive model. One of the challenges for the model makers and these guys on the other side of the equation doing all the exploratory and development stuff, they're having trouble with monetization. Monetization is very difficult for them. On the operational end of things, this is where the technology is being applied. It may not be monetizing anything, but it's driving some form of operational benefit.
Correct.
And it's being scaled out with custom stuff because it's likely. So if we look at what Meta is doing, they're buying GPUs from NVIDIA for the model development, right? So the Llama stuff that they're doing.
Yeah.
But internally for their, let's say, recommender engines and for this new stuff that they're
Facebook, for example, right?
Yeah.
Facebook operations, WhatsApp operations, Instagram. Yeah.
They're going to be using these bespoke things because there isn't a diversity, as much of a diversity of workload
correct
for the operational side of the business. So yeah, that's like sort of it's not the aha, it's the affirmation that I got to Marvell Industry Analyst Day. Because like I said, I already opined in, about this earlier in the year. So that was a kind of cool thing for me.
I think maybe for people who are not following this very closely, maybe I think they should have made that clear. Customization. So why customization? I think they talked about it in the previous ones that all the clouds are different. The cloud workload for different hyperscalers is different. So but I know maybe they should have clarified that a little bit. So we are building for AI, but we are not building for we are not building this for Gen AI that will be offered as a service that somebody, it might be to some extent, but the prime market for customization is running the operations, which means there is immediate need for these technologies and the solutions and the infrastructure that they're bringing in. They're, readily available workload to be run on them, not looking at we'll build the infrastructure and then we'll build the model and then later.
Tell you the truth, that sort of is the role of analysts. We should be able to connect the dots and see. I mean, that's the value we should be bringing to the industry, is the more holistic view, being able to see the nuances of what's going on. And oftentimes, you and I know, a lot of tech companies don't see the forest from the trees. And that really is the purpose of industry analysts. So I don't blame them for not focusing on it. I totally agree. I mean, this is the key point. It wasn't, I agree with you, made as emphatically as it probably should have been, but that's a missed opportunity for Marvell. But I'll say here, this is one nugget for everyone. Matt Murphy is not going to be the CEO of Intel, so knock it off. He told us.
He particularly made it clear.
And that was an NDA. He just sat there and said, I don't know where the hell this came from. So there you go. You heard it from us. Not really. He told everybody in the room. So anyways, what do you expect to see from Marvell Industry Analyst Day 2025? What's your guess? Let's just take a guess here.
So I mean, I would expect more progress on it, especially I think what they clearly presented is, when we say custom, it is custom processing with XPU, custom interconnect, and now with custom memory, which was not the case. So I think when everything now, which means everything is kind of customized, right, for these things. So next year will be interesting to see, okay, for the operational use cases, it's perfect. How hyperscalers and the cloud providers are using this to offer differentiated service as a service as well. how are they? I mean, as a service provider, they have to provide kind of you know not how do I put it? They have to provide a general purpose AI compute, right? For the for the models to run, even when they run the models, so that anybody in the industry wants to get, and they want to use AWS or Google Cloud or Microsoft, should have kind of a similar interface, infrastructure, and performance, so that you know it's more common, then it have economies of scale, and it's easy to switch between the players. But if you are offering very custom solutions to on the back end, which enables the cloud providers to offer customized infrastructure to their customers, it is differentiated. But if that differentiation is something of value to the users of this infrastructure, then it will be a challenge, right? So and you can also not scale it across the board, because you're offering some specific differentiated service.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting how that turns out, and how Marvel will play into that. You know what I mean? I don't know. It was very superficial.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that will play out,
Like
and
for
as I
example, yeah,
mentioned,
yeah. Like for example, if I want to use AI infrastructure, then I know what I get from NVIDIA GPU cluster or AMD GPU cluster. So I can go to operator player one for that cluster, or I can go to hyperscaler two for the same cluster. Then I don't have to change a lot of stuff on my side, because I expect both of them to run similarly, right?
yeah,
Instead, now you're offering customized infrastructure for specific use case, or we'll see how that
yeah, yeah,
differentiation is. Then then that may be very attractive to for my workload, but at the same time, it may not be for some people, right? So then,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
I don't think they're going to care. I
Yeah.
think they're pursuing it, as I mentioned before, a different opportunity. I think
Mhm.
it's something that's a little bit more sustainable, that addresses a much larger, um, real challenge, which is cost down of inference and maybe even
Yeah,
model training, and they
yeah,
could care less about general. This is
yeah.
about optimizing for their particular business. And so we'll probably see Apple and others that are looking forward to having to deal with really large
I'd look at as well. Yeah,
inference workloads and demand, which they're not going to be able to monetize.
yeah.
Uh, it's going to be an operational function, and they want the lowest cost per token possible.
Correct.
That's
And
the
perfectly
weird.
and perfectly optimized and tuned for that specific workload,
Yes.
because they know the workload, and you can basically make wonders with your hardware if you know the workload you're trying to run on. A lot of the
Right.
inefficiencies in the compute is, you if you don't know, you
Right.
basically optimize for everything, which means you don't optimize for anything, right? Then that's why
Yeah.
it is generic compute. But if you know the workload, you can optimize the heck of it. So,
Yeah. I mean, and that's why the monetization part of all this is really tough. You see it here across the board. No one
yeah,
can really break this stuff out. It's
yeah,
very, very difficult to attribute the benefit of generative AI to anything. Even the call center, it's tough because
yeah.
what's the difference? How much of an uplift are you getting from a generative AI agent versus just a non-generative AI agent? Is
Mhm.
90 isn't 90% of the benefit of just having the agent do a basic conversational interaction? How much more benefit is there in, let's say, just a slightly better or better conversational interaction? And a lot of that benefit is going to depend on, well, what is the task or what are the case types that the generative AI is handling? And then also, there's always the concern about, because these things are continue to will always hallucinate and are very difficult to tune for accuracy, reliability, and relevance. What is the risk to the business of scaling that 5%, anywhere from 30 to 5% error rate across your enterprise? And, that's going to be an issue. But when you look at the investments that are happening, there's still that big question mark. And I think next year, the question and challenge I posed to Chris, I was going to ask this to Matt, but I didn't have time. He took off, so I didn't have a chance to ask him. It's like, what are you guys going to do in bringing some of all the goodness that you have in the interconnect, in the networking, in the custom silicon, in the advanced packaging, which is really killer stuff that they're doing with TSMC. How are you going to bring this stuff down to the edge and then maybe hydrate or enhance automotive, the networking side of things? Because we did talk about AI RAN jokingly, by the way. But is there anything there that can practically happen where they can bring these technologies and these innovations down to these edge cases that they have also as part of their diversification strategy to either differentiate, catalyze, or drive, like for instance, the automotive, this shift toward SDV. So that's, I found many people that they're going to be forced to do that next year.
Yeah, so I asked that question on automotive. I mean, you have all the IP blocks to make SoC for automotive. He said they looked at it and they said they did not see huge opportunity in terms of customization right now, but they continue to explore. And I also asked about the edge as well. They are not really looked very closely, but I think his overall reaction was it's not at a stage where the economies of scale for a optimized silicon are there. The edge AI is still pretty small and it's very diverse now, right? So I think, if in this course of this year, if the edge becomes big, we'll see that happens or not. I think 1 year is too short a period for that to happen. If the edge opportunity becomes so big, right now it's a very diverse application and use cases, and each of these markets are pretty small. So I don't think customization makes a lot of sense there right now. But if they become big enough and economies of scale exist for customization, maybe they'll bring they look at that market. So we'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, Prakash, thanks for joining this episode of the Rethink podcast. And everyone, thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate your viewership and listenership. You can contact Prakash Sangam at www.tantraanalyst.com. That's one word. And you can also hit him up on LinkedIn. Follow his research. He has great stuff. I appear on his podcast quite often for some reason. I don't know why. Also hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm there as well. I drop a lot of stuff. In fact, I have some coverage of the event, and as well, Prakash, you do as well on Twitter as well as LinkedIn, and take part in our industry and tech insights that matter. And Prakash, you want to take a moment to tell people how to get in touch with you other than your website?
Yeah, sure. So I have a podcast, as you mentioned, Tantra's Mantra, and a lot of insights in the blogs, articles on the website. And I send a newsletter that goes to around 35,000 people. If you're interested, just sign up on the webpage. The central part for all of that content is the website, which is www.tantraanalyst, all one word.com.
Okay, wonderful. And please subscribe to our podcast, which will be featured on the Next Curve YouTube channel as well as Buzzsprout. That's where you can get the audio version. And alternatively, you can find us on your favorite podcast platform. And also subscribe to the Next Curve research portal at www.next-curve.com for the tech and industry insights that matter. And until next time, maybe happy holidays.
Exactly. Happy holidays to you and all of your audiences.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Prakash.
All right.